My name is Juby.
And I'm Vanessa, and welcome to No
No
Filters, No
filters, no
Fears
fears
podcast.
podcast. Today's level elephant is a level 2 elephant.
A level 2 elefante. Look
It,
at that little
it's
guy. He's so cute.
it's fun. It's a fun one. What little guy? What are we looking at? We
The
talking about
little
the
the little elephant. I
Oh
love it.
yes. It's a level 2. It's not that serious, but it's very serious. So it's like
It
yes.
is.
But we didn't want to make it a level 5 because it could
Tan
also be.
intenso. It's not that intense.
Yes,
I don't think.
we wanted to make it in the fun side, but still share enough information for you guys to be like, okay, we
Yeah.
got it. So today is September 6th and it's a read a book day. That's why we also chose reading is essential, and we talk about it every day. So
We
might as
really
well
do.
do an episode about it. But on September 8th, it's also Literacy Day. So that's even more important. So it says literacy for human centered recovery. Narrowing the digital divide, the COVID 19 crisis has disrupted the learning of children, young people, and adults at an unprecedented scale. What does that mean? That digital has made people read less, like, a book, I guess, because everything's digital. Everything. My niece's books are literally on a computer on a pad. Not like us when we
Yeah.
went to school, everything was
Well, it's
physical.
that way. It's that way for a lot of things, and it's been that way for a while. I
Yes.
think even more so now. And what I interpreted from that was that nobody foresaw what this pandemic was going to be like, specifically for school children. I would
Yes.
imagine it's not as easy to learn these things when you're in the early stages of development through a computer versus in person, when you can just ask. And parents at the time are trying to, you know, maintain the house, maybe even work from home at the same
Right.
time as students are studying. I cannot imagine being a parent during all of this, even less being a student.
Yeah, I heard a lot of students, it was hard for them because some can learn from home. Some are like um tactical, some are like, they have to hear it.
I couldn't take online courses. Have you ever taken an online course?
Yes, I have, and that's how I was able to pass math.
Really? I see. For some people, it's really easy. My cousin was the same. In New World, if I wasn't sitting in a classroom, I would completely disassociate from the need of having to like show up to my online class, and I would have failed.
I was backwards. I couldn't go to class because I would disassociate. I was like in
And
space. Math
everything.
math was hard
How
for me.
funny.
Math
How
was hard for me. Every
funny.
other class was good for me to learn in person because I had to, especially
Right.
like art and photography. Pero math was the only one that I could not sit there and be like, it was gibberish to me. So doing
Well,
it
yeah,
online,
that was me with math in person, math online, math anywhere.
yeah, no, math online actually helped me tremendously to freaking finally graduate
Wow.
from college.
And for teachers too, this pandemic has been gaga for teachers because now they've had to take their entire curriculum and adjust it to an online platform where at the beginning you had people like busting into your classes, like adults randomly walking into like schools on these Zoom calls. It's been interesting, and it definitely keeps kids from the joy of picking up a book, because at school so many classes were in the library. I
Yeah.
had to get my classes in the actual library at one point when I was a kid.
Yeah, no, I mean, see, my nieces grow up in today's world. Like, they did not have a single physical book. Everything was for them online, like on their school online thing.
Hmm.
And I was like, wow. And it's been what? She's 15 now, ever since she started, especially she goes to a charter school. So all schools are different, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, I prefer the
I mean,
actual.
I see the benefits. I can see what the benefits are, right? I personally love holding a book, the smell of a book,
Yeah.
especially if they're old. Even textbooks. I like those big clunky textbooks. But I can understand the benefit of it. I can understand even the health factors, because carrying 3 and 4 textbooks in a backpack was not fun.
Oh no, that was se te caían, everything will fall. Like you had to carry 7
It's
notebooks.
like a little turtle. All of us were walking around with like our backs encurvados, which now they're all encurvados from,
Right.
guilty as charged. There's this whole thing being talked about where like everyone's neck is creating this lump right here
Yes.
from constantly being like this.
I don't know about you, but did you grow up having lockers in your middle school or high school?
In middle school, no. In high school, yes. I didn't have lockers till high school.
I didn't have lockers at all.
Really?
So I had to carry all the motherfuckers
Oh,
everywhere throughout the whole
hell
day.
no. Oh,
Yes.
well, that would end up happening to me because I was too lazy, or I would talk too much after class, and I would miss the only opportunity I had to like switch out books. So it was just like carry them y te jodiste.
Right.
How, but it's like I can see the benefits of having certain things online, like certain books online, but ingrained into kids, or the joy of reading beyond what's assigned isn't created. And because it's something that you can just click in and out of, or something that you can do bullet points or spark notes really quick,
Oh yes.
right? Then there's no longer the need to write it. And spark notes was created as a study tool, not as a means to avoid reading.
Or like my niece says, is there a movie for it?
Oh, I see the face of, don't make me smack you.
I am not watching. Listen, first of all, how I feel about that is the movie will miss the major points of a book. Always. They
It
will
always
always
does.
miss the most important, crucial parts that make the book what it is. So if you want to go watch a movie and miss half of it, that's your problem.
Yeah.
Allá tú, you know. But I don't know. I always been a believer that, like you said, read more than it's assigned to you at school. But not everybody has that drive to want to learn more than what it is. Like I learned at a young age what category of books I liked. And I like nonfiction, I like truth, I like documentaries, I like biographies. I do not like fiction. I don't like other people to dream or think or imagine for me. And I knew that at a young age because I read so many different topics and figure out what topics I like, that because I read beyond what was given to me at school. But not everybody is like that.
And it's also the whole the instinct, the age of instant gratification, right?
Oh yes.
So it's not just that, the kids don't have the drive. It's just it's taught from an early age that other things are easier than to read it. Hell, to even write it, you know, you can just click on something and it's there. I feel like everything that started with the best of intentions for efficiency and accessibility
Right.
kind of
Yes.
also veered and lost its way. Audiobooks, right? I think we've talked about this before. Like audiobooks were born of the best intention, accessibility, absolutely. For
Yes.
for for the also when you are lacking in time and can't necessarily sit down to read, but you enjoy reading a book and would like to read a book, have it read to you. So, but also, then you also lose that habit of sitting to read. I was a total bookworm when I was a kid. I loved reading. I had a college reading level when I was in elementary school, and I was really proud of that. After, even in college, all I was reading was plays because that's what was required of me, right? That's all I had time for. We had to read a gajillion plays a day. But after that, I wasn't really reading books that were of interest to me. Somewhere I lost that. And I feel like it happens to a lot of adults that we lose that habit. We, start tuning into the social medias and we start tuning into other things that's not reading an actual book or
Right.
articles.
I understand the audiobook aspect, but I've never liked hearing somebody read
Audiobooks.
a book. One, because it was going either too slow for my own taste, or I just never liked it. Like I read way too fast for me to sit there. I'm like, I'm on page 10. Like you're still on page 5. Can you get it together?
Spit it out.
But I understand the concept and why, and I
Yeah.
appreciate that because obviously everybody needs to be included. But yeah, no, I to this day I don't read as many books as I used to, but I still read. I still take time purposefully and mindfully and sit there and I'm like, I'm reading a book today. This is what I'm reading today.
I used to also really, like I said, I love books, but now I've found the balance between also a digital book because sometimes it's just easier because it's already on my phone. So if I can't pack 3 books, that's a little intense, right? On an airplane or wherever, I'll whip out my phone and be able to read it there and be able to highlight. So having that accessibility, that ease is great. But I feel like anything else, it's having that balance.
No, yeah, I agree with you. Can you imagine carrying 20 books, all the books you
On
have
vacation.
here, carrying it? It has its own suitcase. I
Yeah.
understand that. That I do
Yeah.
truly understand. But it's also good to always go back to the roots, and to
Yeah.
remember,
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, obviously now, as you already know, I do not like buying new books. I rather if I could find the book somewhere and it's like already made, I will buy it,
Yeah.
because we don't want to continue to perpetuate the killing of trees, deforestation. We don't want that,
There's that.
There's
I mean, it's also like how delicious when we learn how to read. Do you remember when you learned how to? And feel free, guys, to tell us your first book that you read or what age you learned to read. Let us know in the comments. Do you remember when you first learned to read? How
I
you
remember
felt?
I remember my first English. It was called The Tree Without Leaves. I don't know if you guys ever read it, but I've never been able to find it anymore. It's literally called A Tree Without Leaves, and that was my first English book I learned how to read. And I was like, I think in first grade in Puerto Rico, we were trying to read it. It was literally about a tree that had no leaves, and the kids felt bad. So out of construction paper, they made the tree some leaves.
That's so cute.
It was
That's
the
so
cutest.
nice. It's
It
like the
was
opposite of the giving tree, where like the kid takes everything from the damn tree.
That was my first book. Yes, I remember it to this day. I can't get over it, and I can't find the book anywhere. Anybody, if you know where the tree, if you know where the book is, please.
Oh, that is so sweet.
That was my first book. What
I
about
don't
you?
remember what first book was, but my mom always read to me, and I learned to read with oh man, what was it called? Hooked on Phonics.
Oh my God! Yes, I remember that.
Hooked on Phonics helped me learn to read. And I was a nerdy kid who read the encyclopedia and read the dictionary
Me too, for fun, right? I did that. It was
for
fun. I still do
fun.
it.
Um, and I was casi siempre I had a book. And I learned to read in Spanish and English pretty much simultaneously. I actually needed Hooked on Phonics because I was going to school in Dominican Republic and school was primarily in Spanish, but I always went to bilingual schools. I was in Montessori school, so I was always still reading in English,
Yeah.
right? But because at the time I was speaking more Spanish than English, my mom wanted to make sure that I was developing my English skills just as much. But I remember feeling so accomplished that I could read and also that I could read in 2 languages because I could read and share with my abuela and I could
Yeah.
read and share with my friends. I think we forget the other aspects of why literacy is important, right? Not just the functional aspects of you can read to now understand and learn new things that you can apply to life, to work, to school, but what it does for your self esteem when we feel we know something, right? That we can
Hmm.
talk about something with someone and have something to offer to the conversation. It does
That's
something for your self esteem.
that's what I learned. Like the way you learn something is when you can share with somebody else.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what I would thought. That's how you know that you truly learned what you were reading. I just think that some people like to go into another world, to another fantasy. Like when I read documentaries or like biographies, I was like, I put myself in that situation. Like I think about what happened at the time and picture it like a movie in my head. And then
Yeah.
history is being told to you and you just go into another world. Just like when people read fiction, to them, it's basically
The
the same
world
thing.
gets created.
Right.
Right.
You could go to different dimensions and worlds and get lost.
Yeah. I mean, I'm an actor. I dig the movie bit, but we can't forget where movies start. They start as a script.
As a script, yes.
Plays start as a script before they get on their feet. So the person or the people who make it this movie, who make it this play, sat there and read it
Mm-hmm.
and you know analyze these characters to bring these worlds to life. So we it's so easy to disconnect and dissociate these things and just take the part you like. I like the
Right.
movie based on the book. Right, like you were saying before.
Yeah.
But could you imagine how much more interesting it's like learning the secret world in a video game when you read the book versus watching the movie?
Right.
Because I can
Exactly.
tell you right now, not one Harry Potter movie, not one Lord of the Rings movie, not one Marvel, DC, or anything movie comes close to what the comic book or book was like.
Well, I don't like Harry Potter. Sue me. But the Marvel comics and stuff, yes, yes. Nothing compared to it.
Nothing. Um, I there, no, we're gonna get to some stats because yes, no, we talked about self-esteem and how it affects that. Now, imagine in children, right, that
Mm-hmm.
are now learning to communicate, they have their vocabulary grows now in how they can express feelings, how they can express opinions, right? These are the ages where we start to develop opinions and how we see the world outside of our families, outside of what we're only taught at home. How when you start to become a little bit independent, right? When you start to gain a bit of autonomy in your
Right.
thought process, and as you grow and get older, and that how important that is. So when you don't have that,
Right.
and there is no emphasis on being taught how to read, and you can just get by, because that's, I feel, what happens a lot in the educational system. A lot of students have been taught to just get by.
Sorry, you were frozen.
um no, no, oh crap. Did you did you have to take the FCAT?
Yes, I took the FCAT, yes.
What a basura that test was, or is. I don't know if kids still have to take it.
I do not know that, but I took the FCAT. I passed it with flying colors. I always felt like in school, it wasn't to my full potential. I always wanted to do more, but the school was just so limiting, like I could not do much. And this is how I ended up at New World at school at night. I
Mm,
went to two schools because I could not, I felt like I was being
you're
limited and I
missing.
was like, I needed to do more, and I feel like the way that I feel about school today, I feel like kids should just have a month or something of going to a bunch of classes and be like, okay, I'm keeping these six, you know,
I like these.
besides I mean, obviously the basics, because obviously the basic reading in English and all that, it's a necessary, but I feel like you're stifling them in their creativity and their potential of what they could possibly be by telling them these are the only classes you could take. I know we
Right,
took
until
electives,
you get to college.
but well, in high school they give you one elective or two electives when you reach to like 10 or 11, depending on what school you go to. One goddamn elective that I could choose to do whatever I want with my time. One.
I was fortunate that we got 2 hours of, right, the magnet programs. You get your acting thing, but there are schools now, and this is exciting, that offer, they have programs where it's like agriculture and things like that. I'm like, hallelujah, finally. But not all schools have that. You know what I
Not
mean?
Not a school could afford it. Yeah.
And the reason I feel like the FCAT was caca is because if you're going to have a test like that, then use the results. Because the
Right.
results
Right.
of it were very telling. Not only could the teachers, okay, because they made the teachers take the FCAT at some point, and the teachers couldn't pass the damn thing. Okay. I passed it, and I was one of the groups that took the science FCAT before it came out. And it, and it was easy for me. My mom's a doctor. Science is just kind of something I like.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't so easy for everyone else. And so the way the FCAT was done in order to grade the school, right? So no pressure, kids who are going to school to be taught because you don't know these things. No pressure. But now it falls to them to pass this test to make your school look good.
Right. It's not even about the student individually. Like,
It's not to learn, have we taught you well? Right? Have we listened to what your learning needs are? Do you learn the same? Because as we well know, not everybody learns the same, right? And having a different way of learning does not make you necessarily disabled. It just means your brain works different. And that's perfectly fine and beautiful. Because if our brains all work the same, we'd be a really boring
right.
planet.
Do you remember in school that they would like make you like read a paragraph or a sentence or whatever to see how fast you
Yes.
would read? I will be reading there, and I will read. The ladies like, do not read the title, but I will always read the title, but it was still faster even if I didn't read the title,
Yeah.
And they're like, the lady told me, you don't have a problem reading, you have a problem concentrating. And I'm like, yes, I know, because this is boring, and I could read like 3-4 books right now, and you're telling me that I could only read one book, so
Yeah.
yeah.
It was things like that were also frustrating to me because I would see my friends struggle, right? And in a time where it wasn't so known about how to help a student with ADHD navigate, right? Their how they learned, how they read, how they studied, in a time where dyslexia was not as easy for teachers to pinpoint, right? These are things that aren't necessarily taught to teachers. Weren't. I
Warren.
feel like now they're doing better at doing that
Oh,
because it's a thing and it happens. I don't think my
no,
mom will
yeah.
be upset if I share this. My mother made it through medical school with dyslexia that was undiagnosed till she was an adult. And what she would do is she would read, and I know a friend of mine actually in college who also did this, because they would get a bit of a stutter in having to read aloud. So it was very difficult for students that have that social anxiety to read out loud in class. It's a lot of pressure. Both my mom and this friend of mine would memorize the chapter. So when they would get called on in class, no matter what paragraph it was, they could read it in
Damn.
class out loud. And also
Wow.
imagine the students that have the language barrier. They're excellent students. Give them a damn test and they're acing it. They do all the homework, they do all the extra credit. But the moment that they have to read out loud, it becomes
Yeah.
very cumbersome, and the nerves of having an accent or mispronouncing something. And kids can be cruel.
Yeah.
So that same self-esteem that you are now building by being so educated and being able to like throw down in a conversation kind of goes out the damn window when you feel so observed in something that makes you feel so insecure.
That would happen when, I don't know if they did it in your school at our time, but they would like make you read a sentence of that one paragraph, and then the kids next, will have to read
Mm-hmm.
the next. That will be the difficult part. I have a thick accent. Everybody, you hear it. I have an accent. I do. Sometimes when I'm reading something, se me sale. But
Se me sale. I love it.
but that's, I mean, I know that we're trying to teach us that, how to speak with conviction. When you're reading something, read it like you mean it, read it, I see, but like you just said, it will get to you like, oh shit, it's my turn. Oh my God, like you're just freaking the fuck out now, and it's like all that as well. And if you do have a speech impediment, or you do have a learning disability, or whatever the case may be, that also falls into,
It's really great to see how we've progressed in that respect of
oh,
acknowledging ADHD and acknowledging dyslexia, acknowledging speech impediments, because I feel like, for example, those with a stutter or a lisp, they already have to deal with so much critique, right? And to feel these pressures cannot be easy. And just, well, there's Sally, and distracts from the purpose, which is to educate, right? So, which brings us now to literacy, right? Literacy, you were saying that Literacy Day came for the need for, digital literacy in the sense of how to deal with computers.
Yeah, narrowing the digital divide. Yes, because digital is.
So this is where the funny thing happens. When it comes to books and such, the children are at that quote unquote disadvantage because they have to now learn to read this. Enter the digital age, the older demographic is now at a disadvantage because this shit didn't exist when they were in school.
Right.
Right. And some of us, we learned it in college and things, but I'm talking about 65 plus, maybe 70 plus. It's limited literacy in an age where everything is now digital. That's intense.
Listen, I don't know about you, but I had encyclopedias all the way to the age of 20.
I surely did.
I didn't get a computer until I was in college.
Wow. Yeah.
So I was still doing the old school way, typing in a typewriter when I was in high school or middle school, typing in a typewriter with the encyclopedias because my parents were old school and they're like, aquí no va a haber nada de eso, technology, qué sé yo, qué mierda. Yeah. So listen, that's how I grew up with. And I love that, though. I love going to the letter R in a book and it's just right there, a thick-ass encyclopedia. And if you don't know what an encyclopedia is, it's a set of all the alphabets in one book, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and you go to that particular one, you open it like a dictionary, but just for wider information. That was fun to me.
Yeah. I mean, it was interesting. It is fun. Like, where's Waldo? And I remember when in school they had those little magazines, right? The science ones, the history ones, yes, I know, and Highlights magazine, where it was like Cosmo, but for kids. So, and it was educational, and you would learn things about what was happening in Mars and in NASA and what they were discovering, and they would include games and questions, and it included you in the learning process. And those things are still available and whatnot now, but you can't figure it out on your own unless you have the proper guidance and whatnot. Now, mind you, I was surprised at the numbers of what is considered literate in the world. Most developed countries are almost at 100% literacy, which brava. But when I say almost, that means there's still, I mean, there are a couple of countries that are, it claims 100% literacy, right? And then we start getting into the 99%, 98% and onward.
Before you share your statistics, can we share why literacy is important to those who might not care before we go on into the deep shit? Because this is important to what you're gonna say later on. So this is gonna tie it all in together. Obviously, there's five reasons why. So obviously, for your brain health, study shows that giving the brain a daily workout, reading, writing, and working with numbers keeps brain cells healthy as we age, reducing the chances of developing Alzheimer's and dementia later in life, which is great. I suck at math, so I
A
try my
muscle.
best.
It's a muscle.
Number two, community participation. The lack of literacy skills limits social engagement at all age levels and prevents adults and children from being able to participate fully and contribute to the betterment of society. Like you were saying, some kids do not know how to interact with other people. Number
Yeah.
three, effective communication. Learning to read and write improves our ability to communicate effectively with others by enhancing oral language, allowing us to express our feelings, thoughts, and ideas with others and more clearly. Just like you say, the older we grow, the more expansive our vocabulary becomes. And the
Mhm.
more words for the one thing, there's like 500 definitions. Listen, English is my
Yeah.
second language. Learning it was a pain in the ass, okay? We'll leave it there. Employment advancement. In knowing how to read and write and work with numbers are critical skills for jobs with opportunities to advance up the social economic ladder. Literacy breaks the cycle of poverty, one life at a time. So, number five, knowledge is power. And we always say it in almost every episode. It is. Literacy is the key to personal empowerment and gives us personal dignity and self worth, like you were saying earlier. It does. It does make you feel good. So,
Yeah.
now with that being said, you could continue with your stats.
Yeah. And there are plenty of insanely brilliant people, okay, self-made, that never learned to read, okay, or didn't learn to read until they were adults, but they were interested in knowledge, right? And so they made it a point to learn how they could, until they were able to learn how to read and write. So it's not to say that if you are having difficulty, right, in learning how to read or write as a child, as an adult, that it is impossible to be functional, right? Part of what we see, and this is the most interesting part statistically, in the United States, not in other countries, in the United States, is functional illiteracy. Um, Amongst interesting demographics. Okay. 35% of, come here, baby, of what is considered like white America is illiterate. Okay. In a country that is in the 90th percentile of literacy. Okay. 23% of Black Americans, 3% of which are non-US born, are illiterate, and 34% of Hispanic Americans, which about 4% are non-US born, are illiterate. Okay, so you would expect something very different. But the reality is that it depends on the community. It depends also on the poverty level of how, what is accessible to these students, to these schools, computers, books, right? There's schools that don't have books, or books that are missing chunks of pages, right? Um, so I'm gonna get more on my stats. Some countries, the literacy rate at the number of people. Okay, like I said before, as a whole, the global literacy rate is high. As a whole, a lot of countries are at 100%, 98 and above.
Mm-hmm.
The literate, and this breaks my heart. The literacy rate for males and females that are at least 15 years old is 86.3%. Okay, this is globally. However, males have a literacy rate of 90%, while females have a literacy rate of 82.7. It's not lagging too far behind, but there's clearly a difference. Developed
Right.
nations as a whole, developed nations, okay, 99.2% literacy. Most illiterate adults live in South Asia, West Asia, and Sub-Saharan Africa. Okay. And of all the illiterate adults in the world, nearly 2/3 are female. And let us be clear that in 2/3 of the world, that is intentional.
Exactly.
Women are intentionally kept illiterate so that they cannot leave their homes, so that they cannot have certain thoughts for them, what they think that they cannot have certain thoughts for themselves, right? And that they can be manipulated and controlled. 781 million adults worldwide cannot read or write. 781 million. Okay, so when we hear these numbers of 99.2%, etc., it's a great big number. It sounds like a really big number. We forget what 1% looks like when you are talking about billions of people. 781 million is still a shit ton of people.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Right? One of the lowest literacy rates in the world is Nigeria, where just over 19% of adults can read and write. More than 1/4 of males in this nation are literate, while only 11% of females are literate. Right? And these are countries that we also know have serious issues with militias. How can we expect a country that is kept intentionally, right, uneducated to a certain degree, unable to read or write, right, to defend themselves from militias, to stand up to political powers that are oppressing them and keeping them in meager situations, living wise, lack of water, right? Está fuerte. Low literacy rates include Guinea-Bissau, 30%, South Sudan, 34%, Mali, 35%, Central African Republic, 37%, Burkina Faso, 41%, Benin, I'm saying this all wrong, 42%, and this should come as no surprise, considering what is currently happening, Afghanistan, 43%. How much of that percentage do we want to guarantee is women?
Right.
Right? These are countries that historically have been under someone's thumb at some point. The developed nations of the world have much higher literacy rates with smaller gaps between the genders. 31 nations reported literacy rates of 99% or above. Countries reported 100% literacy among their people were Andorra, Greenland, North Korea. I doubt they have a choice but to be literate. Or literate within whatever their government says is kosher. Just like Cuba. Very, very intelligent. They all go to school. Right? But they're learning something that we're not.
Yeah.
And Uzbekistan, they all reported 100% literacy in their countries. The United States is not listed in that, but the US literacy rate is about 99%. Again, that 1%, right? And we hear about the 1% in the US frequently when it comes to wealth, right? The 1% that is wealthy and the 1% that is illiterate. Those are big numbers if you really think about it. And I'll send you this chart so that you can share it. It's a chart of all the countries in order of percentage. The least literate country, we know as Nigeria. I actually don't see here too many Latin America. Okay, here's Colombia. Busquemos a Puerto Rico, your country. 92.40%.
Not bad.
Not bad. Is that something that you would be like, that you would agree with, that you would?
I mean, yes, because in Puerto Rico, they teach us about world history. They don't just teach us American history. We get taught about what Puerto Rico is and the true like meaning of what the fuck happened there, you know, and we get to learn about the other islands. So yes,
this is what I like about this chart. So it doesn't just give you the percentage of literacy, it gives you the population. So in Puerto Rico, the population is 2,828,255. That is the population. 92%, 92.5%, sorry, 92.4% of that population is literate. Dominican Republic, 10,953,703, 93.8% of that population is literate. That's not bad. You know, Greece, Aruba, those countries are up there. Mongolia, Uruguay, Argentina, the Czech Republic, Trinidad and Tobago. The countries that are 99% and above start with Argentina.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Bangladesh, India, 74%. And it starts dropping once you start getting to Asia. But these are also cultures where much of the population, if female, is kept from learning how to read or write.
Right.
Or they have minimal education of reading and writing, right? To a certain grade level, right? Functional.
I think what frustrates me the most is that the United States love to put themselves in such a high standard when it comes to education or reading or whatnot, that in fact they don't even take advantage. The people that live here do not take advantage of the fact that they do have access to education, like internet. Like, I'm sorry, but that is huge. You are able to learn whatever the hell you want at any given
But also
moment.
accessibility has become increasingly difficult, especially when you start getting to like higher education. Who the hell wants to be in debt for most of their life? You die being in debt to college.
Well, obviously, yeah. I mean, nobody wants that. But
right? So they make it very difficult. It's there, but they make it difficult.
Yeah, but there are ways to learn something still, because there is information, and like you said, libraries exist still. You are able to go learn from that. But since we are now taught that, you know, technologies are accessible to a degree, you forget that there's more information also. I mean, I know there are new books being made every day with
Beyond
whatever
Google.
information. Now, exactly. So, I don't know. That
Yeah. No, I agree. And like if you're going to make yourself literate in multiple facets, you can't just use the one. Yes, Google is a great tool. The interwebs is a great tool, but it is not the only tool. It was not the first tool. The information that was fed into this was from a book that a person read, had in their brain, and went into the computer.
exactly.
And it still takes reading. You know what I mean? It still takes reading when you're on these things. And the major problem with literacy is that it's the not being able to read. It's the not learning proper pronunciation of words or what they mean, right? Learning very basic communication skills or basic words. You know, before, like, teachers used to put so much emphasis on learning synonyms, right?
Oh, yeah.
I remember in high school, I lived with a mini thesaurus in my backpack because I had a teacher that if you used the same word too many times, like their favorite word was redundant. It's redundant. You just said that, right? So you had to find different words to describe the same thing. There's not much of that anymore. We are also hearing a lot of people in their daily interactions communicate with improper tense of a word and not know that they're using, like, very genuinely using it.
Yeah.
And because that's how they were taught. So it's not that they're dumb. If that's what you're taught, that's what you're taught. You know what you know. Right? And especially when you have a language barrier, it's really easy to use improper tense, right? So I feel like it's a disservice to not, to just, I teach you to read and then you figure it out, right? There's got to be more to it. But then also, like, I don't feel like teachers are given much of an initiative to want to do that, man. We don't treat our teachers as well as we should.
I mean, some teachers didn't give me the pleasure. They didn't give me that want to go to school, to their classroom to learn. But there were teachers who were not even my teachers that made me want to go to class and learn. And I think this is why I became a writer, and I appreciate reading so much, because my reading teacher was that one person. She's like, she loved teaching about reading. Not, it wasn't just a job to her. It's like reading is literally so essential to your everyday growth. Like, it was just, I don't know, the way that she spoke about reading just made me like appreciate it. And all the books, delicious. And her name is Nadine Smith. I just hope she's somewhere out there. I don't know, man. And
That's awesome.
she made reading seem more than it was. It wasn't just words in a book or a nice fancy cover. It was just somebody who put their life on a book, and now it's like you get to read that, you know? So, and I think that's why I became a writer, to teach other people like my experience, to show them my experience. I may be a hell of a great writer, but I am not eloquently, like, especially when I'm nervous or something, just forget it. English goes out the window, you know?
Oh,
Like,
I'm so much better at, with time, writing thoughts and feelings. And the way that I write, it's really funny. You've read some of my poets. There's no like streamline of thought. There's no complete sentences, but it comes together in a certain way. And I think that that's what's most interesting, when you can read different types of writing. It's just like meeting somebody new and learning how to communicate and navigate interactions with different types of people. The same thing applies to reading. When you read different types of writing, different genres. It's not genres. Genres? Categories?
category, I don't know.
What is the word? Okay, they're speaking words. But words are massively important. I feel like all the time we hear how important words are, right? And as time passes, new words are being added to our vernacular every damn day, right? We did the episode on identifiers,
Yeah.
right? And descriptors. So many keep being added. So many things keep being discovered. What is the point of adding new words if we don't take the time to learn what they are, right? And understand how it relates to us and what it means to someone else. So much, I feel so much of the intolerance and the misunderstandings in the world come from that, of keeping it outside of ourselves, right? That word, I learned that, yeah, that means somebody that does tal cosa, right? But it has nothing to do with me.
So
You better learn how it relates to you, because that person is a sentient and functional being in your society that in some capacity lends their thoughts and their to your world. So yeah, it has to do with you. We're not an island.
I just love the fact that you articulate yourself and write the most beautiful piece that someone else is gonna read, and obviously interpret it the way that they want to. And you just wrote it to write it on your perspective. But isn't it beautiful when somebody else just relates and you're like,
And it
damn.
connects. Yes. And you can. I always tell my students, our job is to make somebody in the audience feel less alone, right? And what we're doing is not triturando, like destroying what was written. You have to honor what was written. It was written for a purpose, right? And those words were written that way for a purpose. You learn those lines, not the ones that you want to say. And it's so that it resonates with someone, and how special when somebody can connect to the written word. Oh, cry.
Did you read the study stats that says by the numbers? Did you read that already?
No, I didn't. Let me go.
One more study stats before we continue to 411 with Chubby.
411 with Chubby. All right, here, hold on.
Yeah, we got a couple of more things to share with you guys. So stay
with us. Stay with us. And please, in the comments, share your favorite book. Share, would you like to read more? I know the pandemic did a lot for me reading wise. I got an opportunity to go back to reading because I wasn't. So by the numbers, more than 40%. All right, that is the percentage of American third grade students who read at their grade level. 75%. The percentage of children who will struggle to read their whole lives if they fall behind at age 9. At age 9, okay, the developmental years, right? This is when we start connecting. This is when we start. 9 is when you start, the hormones start kicking in. We start becoming people. Like people that are going to talk to one another. 1 in 4 is the number of boys who suffer from some level of dyslexia, which, a fun fact, dyslexia is more common amongst boys than it is amongst girls. 1 in 5, the number of students who suffer from learning differences. I like that they put it that way, learning differences.
Yes, instead of...
Yeah, 1 in 5 students. And I believe when we had Annie on the show, you discussed this, and Annie brought it up as well, that in schools they have made it, and it was in an effort to, streamline the education, but it was also very separating to have students who have some level are on some level of the spectrum of having autism and having other learning differences, right? Sit in different tables, be in different classes. There should be some classes where they overlap. When I was in middle school, I had that, and it was insanely beneficial because those students were insanely good at math and I was crap. So my tutor was the young boy who had Asperger's, and he was my tutor, and he was brilliant at math, brilliant, but his mind worked differently. But it was it was a beautiful thing to witness. Those with neurodivergent minds just have a very beautiful and different way of seeing things, and it's very interesting. A third is the fraction of American struggling readers who belong to college-educated families. A third.
Look at that.
Reading, but their parents went to college. Very interesting. 97% is the percentage of the literacy rate amongst the youth in Algeria. 90%, the percentage of literacy rate globally for all males, which before we said that, 90% of males globally, while 82.7, oh, that's the next one, 82.7% of the literacy rate globally for females. Number 1 in the world, ranking is in the terms of highest literacy, 100%, is Andorra. Andorra, we never hear about Andorra. I want to go visit Andorra. 34.7% is the percentage of illiteracy among people aged 15 and above in sub-Saharan Africa in 2019. And we already know that Nigeria is 19% literate. 19%. That means 81% is completely illiterate. Ryan, you speak to us.
Oh, hey, Ryan.
What does he say?
When I was traveling a lot, I began reading On the Road by Jack
Kerouac.
And I enjoyed it. Okay. See,
yeah.
To me, I wouldn't read that as Kerouac. That does not even why. I know it's a last name and I have no choice. But what the hell is that? See,
this is why conversation is delightful and why teachers need to introduce writers like this, because people don't know. I just did a play reading not long ago by Vanessa Garcia. And a lot of the story was centered around this young woman who read On the Road by Jack Kerouac as she's driving across America, or driving not across America, but she's driving to the Dakotas, right?
Mhm.
And she pretty much follows Jack Kerouac's kind of trail. I've never read On the Road, so I'm gonna read it now. Thanks for the suggestion, Brian. And now we bring you.
So for one with Chubi today, I do have ways that you guys could help. So for example, you can donate books to your local classrooms. Check if you have books that they could actually use, you could go and donate it to them. If that's a subject that they're doing, is something, things like that. You could gift a book to someone and start their initiative. Someone who's been wanting to read, gift them a book. You could start a community lending library. I am very fortunate. I do have a little one not too far from me that I could go to and see what books are there today, and then just like swap books too. So that's one of the great things about that. You could also donate books to the Salvation Army, Goodwill, local libraries. There is I'm going to talk about other ones that are all around the world. Like for this one is like Vietnam Veterans of America. VVA is a nonprofit organization, committed to serving the needs of veterans. And I know how you feel about that, and I know that's important. It is funded without any contribution from any branch of government. So it's completely like, nonprofit.
By the people, baby.
I'm pretty sure you guys have heard of the Habitat of Humanity restores.
Oh my gosh, I love. Yes, please support the Rehabit store, y'all.
I love that store. Any local charities around your area, local theaters. By the way, you could, if you have any history books in any nature, you could check your local theaters or museums, because you could use them. They could use your books for props during any performances and display.
And their dramaturgs can use it for research. Yeah.
Exactly. One of the most important ones that I feel, retirement homes,
Yeah, absolutely.
That's where I found one of my favorite books called The Last Book in the Universe. It is a fiction book. What is it called? Adult for teenagers. I found it in my grandma's closet, tirado ahí, and I was like, ooh, and I got interested in the title, and I picked it up, and I was like, and I got hooked on that book because it's like futuristic and things like that. So yes, retirement homes. There's this thing, this program called Kids Needs to Read. They work to create a culture of reading for children by providing inspiring books to underfunded schools, libraries, and other literacy programs across the United States, especially those serving disadvantaged children. They accept, like new, children's books that are not scribbled on or visibly damaged. I will put the link below for that one. It's called
Write in your books, and don't let your children do that.
Yeah, scribble on books. It's called Kids Need to Read. This one's called Reader to Reader, Inc. It's a nonprofit organization dedicated to expanding literacy and learning opportunities for the nation's most chronically undeserving and vulnerable communities, including inner city schools, Native American reservations, and poor rural towns. So that one as well. I will put other links to these below.
That's awesome. We don't have to go too far. In Wynwood, there's this little box, a little shelf that was built on the side of one of the museums that used to be like a bread bakery. And it's a little library. And it's a shelf with a little door, and people will drop off books, take books. It's great. Things like that are absolutely wonderful. I know that doctors' offices sometimes will take more than just magazines. They'll take books. How wonderful. Ronald McDonald House is constantly taking books as well. So
Yeah, those are other few ones. Yes.
oh look, my mom is offering books. I grew up in a house that always had a library, and I mean, I love libraries.
Me too. I could sit there for
Library
hours.
cards are still a thing. Mi gente, like you can still get a library card. You should get a library card.
Yes. I have a couple of more to read. Africa Library Project. It's called the ALP. It's dedicated to creating African libraries by organizing the shipment of gently used books through book drives in the United States. I will put the link, obviously, to that. Another one is called Books of Africa. Collects, sorts, ships, and distributes books to students of all ages in Africa with the goal of ending the book famine in Africa. I would not be able to go get a book if I wanted to. Like, that breaks my heart. Like, reading, like, just read a subject and go to it and be like, yo, let me go, you know?
So on top of the fact that because now we know that Nigeria's is the most do it is one of the places that has the least literate communities. Not only is it because they lack places to go and learn where to read, they don't have the materials to read. Qué fuerte.
Okay,
We
yeah.
take these things for granted. Damn.
Another one is called Books Through Bars. They work to provide quality reading material to prisoners in Pennsylvania and surrounding states. Again, I will put the links below to all of these. I'm just sharing what you know. Another one is called Prison Books Programs, which is a grassroots organization that exists for one purpose: to send free books to prisoners. In addition to the work they do, they also keep a current list of organizations. You could check your area doing the same thing. Books for Soldiers is an operation paperback books for soldiers. They collect gently used books and send them to American troops overseas, as well as veterans and military families here at home, wherever you may live. To begin the shipment, obviously, link, I will process it. There's so many. I didn't want to just say one thing about the United States. I wanted to do like a worldwide like thing because, again, reading is for everyone. It should be for everyone. The next one is called Better World Books. BWB collects and sells books online to donate books and fund literacy initiatives worldwide. Book Mooch. If you are looking to receive books back in the exchange for your donation, you could donate them to this particular company, and they actually, exchange books. So this was called Rebook It. It's in Los Angeles. It's a free community pickup service provided by the Last Bookstore. I love that book. Bookstore. To ensure that no book ends up in landfills. So this is to save the environment.
Earth conscious.
But instead, it finds new homes in the hands of readers. So yes, I have two more. Free Cycle is a free local online bulletin board dedicated to reusing goods. Post a brief description of the book and you're looking to donate, and if anyone in the local area is interested, you could do an exchange and share that with them. And my last one, which should be common to anybody, ask your friends and family. That is it.
I mean, how wonderful to like ask friends and family for books, or because it's books that interest them. So automatically you're also learning something new about them. Right?
Yes, and that was it for Chubby 411 with Chubby. So if you guys have, just like Carmen said, she'll like give us a list of books. Listen, I have several books. We could do a book trade, but
hey,
what I love that Barnes and Nobles do is have a blind date with a book. So the book is literally covered in brown paperback. It gives you a slight description. And if you want to have a date with that book, you have a date with that book. You don't know what you're getting. You don't know the author. You don't know anything. And it is literally a blind date with the book. And I love that idea. Brian says there are tons of sites online where you can read ebooks for free or for a small monthly fee. I've used Hoopla, Goodreads, etc. Many libraries partners with these sites. Yes. And if you didn't know, the local libraries usually have a free section corner that you could go see what kind of books they put in their free section corner. This is how I got my Mars book free in a library. They were just like giving it away.
That's
So,
awesome.
yes. So, do you want to share the books you?
Yes.
Or
So
should we
well,
continue?
we're starting first with your book and your time. We've got a little process here. We're going to be sharing with you guys. We've compiled 5 books each. Granted, between Chupi and I, we probably fill a library with book recommendations.
Yes. Great
um,
point.
it was very difficult to whittle it down to 5, but we did it. But first, we're going to be starting with something very important, which is one of Chupi's books. Chupi is a published author, book of poetry, and that is the latest book.
Yes.
And they're going to share one of the poems from the book.
Putting me in the
Tell us about
spot.
the book.
No.
Tell us about the book.
Well, the book is a compilation of love, how I navigated love throughout my entire 2-year span that it took me to make it. And it's called Someone Like You. You can find it on Amazon. And this is my author's copy. I wanted this cover on this one, but Vanessa you have my book.
I do. It's wonderful. Y'all,
Oh,
I can brag that I have a friend who has their book on Amazon and on Barnes and Noble.
listen, my
Books.
goal, that was my
Books.
goal. Oh, yes, this is my third poetry
Multiple.
book. So here's one of my poems from the book. It's called Burning. And here we go. It says, my words were as real as the day I wrote them to you. They're as real as those flames in front of you burning all the memories you call fake. My words were as real as the day I first told you I loved you, just as real as us now being strangers. Words may never mean anything to you anymore. As you hear your new lover tell you they love you, you will miss it, you will dismiss it, and not tell her you feel the same way. Instead, you will put up your walls. Your heart will never be the same. The way you love will not be the same. My words were as real as those memories we made together, as real as those flames in front of you, burning other memories you call fake.
Wow.
Let me tell you. And this is not a metaphor.
There's no metaphors.
No metaphors. They're literally
Wow.
burning pages. So, yes,
Oh.
anyway.
Oh, yeah. Legit burns. Fire.
Yeah.
That was, so we will be putting up the link to get Chubi Chiro's book.
Thank you for being proud.
I am very proud, and it's great. And on Chubi's Instagram, you've actually they're still there, I'm pretty sure. You've recorded yourself reading some of your poems.
Yes, my first 2 books are recorded. I chose 31 poems out of my first 2 books to read for April's Poetry Month, and they're there. Yes.
There you go. So check it out on Chubi's Insta. Hey, look, Mama Apolloudin. And now we're gonna do we want to alternate? Yeah, let's alternate as we do. And we're gonna share our 5 book choices. And
Okay.
starting with
You could start first. I already read my book.
okay, yeah, give me a minute. All right, so my first book, I'm actually gonna go up here because I have powers now. I'm fancy. I'm gonna start with okay, this is a good book to start with. So some of my books are really interesting. They're actually could be considered children's books. Hope for the Flowers by Triana Pelos. I totally destroyed Trina's last name. Hope for the Flowers is about 2 caterpillars who meet, form a bond, form a connection, but one of them is constantly trying to find more. They want more, not realizing that they can appreciate and find joy in what's right in front of them. And that the more that they're missing is within them already, which is becoming the butterfly. One of my favorite quotes is from that. How do you become a butterfly? You have to be willing. What is it? You have to be willing, so wanting to be something else, so wanting to like give up this that you become, right? So it's beautiful. Chobe.
Oh yes, my turn. Okay.
Yes. My mama taught me that book.
The Four Agreements. Yes, it's been on the show before. It's been made an appearance. You already know I love this book. It's about personal freedom, just learning how to be a better person, you know, how to grow and how to just be better and understand other people and the communication between. So it had to be on my list because I have it and every day I
love that
read it.
damn book.
And there's three books to this compilation. So but I just love every aspect of the book. It's written by Miguel
Miguel
Ruiz.
So
Brilliant.
so good.
Brilliant. I
So
just
good.
love everything about it. It's captivating. And it doesn't tell you how to think. You know, it just gives you,
It presents.
it presents it, and there you go, beautifully made. So
My next book, I'm telling you, they come off as children's book, but I defy you that they are not just for children. My next book is The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. I hope I did not massacre that too. But The Little Prince is one of my favorite books of all time. For 1005 Reasons. You can read this at different times in your life and it will take on an entirely different meaning. As an adult, it helped me cope with the loss of people that were incredibly important in my life. But it also reminds us to not lose that magic of seeing things through the eyes of a child, of losing that connection with our inner child, of that creativity, that vulnerability that comes so easily, so fluidly to children that we stifle as adults. So it's one of my favorite books. Please read it.
I need to get on that. You've been mentioning since day one on our show.
I'm saying though, okay, listen.
I know. I have
Caso
to.
cerrado.
That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna trade a book that we
Yes.
both like, The
I'm
Four
ready for
Agreements
this.
and The Little Prince. We're gonna trade that one.
Yep.
My next book, I love history and I say love, but I find it interesting. War to me, the 1940s, World War II, you know, it was interesting to me, that time period with Hitler and the Jews and German and all that happened. To me, it's an interesting time. So this book called The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak, I believe you see English and butchering their names.
We read the book. We're not great at reading names.
Yes, we're not right. It's a story about a little girl who experienced what happened in the Holocaust, and it's told by the point of view of death, basically, but it just shows you how death is in so many different ways and not just physical, you know, mental, emotional. And when I read this book, I got hooked on it because it has my two favorite things, you know, war and imagery. Because the book is brilliantly, like, even has some like pictures to give you some ideas. Not pictures
awesome.
like pictures, but it's like you actually, like you're feeling like someone's actual diary. So listen, it took me like 4 years to finish this book because I started in high school and, you know, you had to go to a library to get it until I was actually able to afford it and buy it. And now I have it with me. So yes.
That's awesome. I love it. Oh, that was it? Okay.
Yeah, that was it.
I go. All right. So most of my books all are like very like spiritual and uju juju, but I promise they're a good read. So this is Be Here Now by Ram Dass, who was a yogi and a spiritual teacher and psychologist, and obviously an author. And this particular book, hold on, because I found a synopsis that I really liked. I'm like, how do I describe this book? In my opinion, the way I interpret it was about allowing our spirituality to help us be present in the present moment and to live life in the moment as it is without getting blinded by all of the extra caca. But I like the way that this is explained here, that we're missing out on life if we're living in our heads rather than connecting with the immediacy of being alive. Spiritual practices can be necessary to bring us back to the vivid present moment. Do with it what you will.
It's funny because me and Vanessa have books that we like. All the books she's presenting, I wanted to put on my
overlap.
list. Right. So I feel like I'm still sharing what we both like with each other.
We're publishing it. We secretly added extra books to our own list through each other.
Right, exactly. This one I've read in high school. And as many of you know, I love books based on true story. Like I love based on it, or like, depicting the truth in a fiction way. That's the only way I will read a fiction book. This one is called Night by Elie Wiesel.
Eli Wiesel.
Wiesel. Well, there you go. See, I'm learning how to pronounce people's names. It's based on his Holocaust experience with his father in the Nazi German concentration camps on Auschwitz and Buchenwald in the 1944 to 1945. He was still alive, in 2018, 17? I know he just recently died in the late 2000s, but he was still alive. I love this book because he was able to put it into paper.
Read it with tissues.
Yes, he was able to write his story and get it out there because, the Holocaust is real, very much real, by real people. And
no matter how many people want to deny that it happened.
Exactly. And he wrote this book, and I was like, when I got hooked on it in high school, and I was like, and I own it. It's in my library, physical library. I needed it. It needed to be a part of that, Yeah. Yes, read it.
I feel like so many people hear about the Anne Frank story and that being put on paper, but Elie Wiesel's story of his experience was really beautiful. Again, read with tissues. My next book, I'm not going in any order that I had included before. Polysecure, Attachment, Trauma, and Consensual Non-Monogamy by Jessica Fern. I really love this book, as we well know, because we've done episodes on attachment theory and love languages and the whole deal. This particular book, and I'll show it one more again, it does mention non-monogamy, and it is I don't feel after reading it that it's geared solely towards non-monogamists. I feel that anybody who's in a relationship can read this book and pull something from it because of how heavy it talks about attachment theory and attachment styles, and helps you understand yourself better and your relationships, particularly romantic relationships. But if you are interested or are practicing non-monogamy, it also gives you a more ethical way of approaching it, versus a mess where people are just getting hurt left and right. Jessica Fern.
Okay. In different, like you said, attachment styles applies to everybody. Like, you don't have to.
It does.
That's literally.
And the entire biggest chunk of the book is solely about the attachment styles and breaking it down and what that looks like and how they can overlap and be different in relationship to relationship. Like you can have a secure attachment to one person and have an anxious attachment style to someone else. Very interesting.
Let me read a comment before we continue with the two we have left. Ryan says, I can also recommend Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen somebody.
That guy. Oh my God, Perfume.
Oh, and Perfume by Patrick Sun. I read that book. I love the concept of
Read
it.
the book, saw the movie, all the things. Again,
I've also,
book better than movie. But so good.
I've also become a fan of John Steinbeck when I visited his museum. Okay.
Of
Yeah, I
Mice and
read
Men.
both. I also read both books that Brian is mentioning, and I also seen the movie. Perfume, I have not, but the book, yes, that was interesting. Okay, my next one, which is one of your favorites, Edgar Allan Poe.
It's one of my favorite poets of life.
I remember going through my library, my physical library, and I had several Edgar Allan Poe books, and I'm like, Vanessa will like one of them.
Yeah,
And I gifted it to her because I know she also loves Edgar
I
Allan Poe.
do.
What I like about this particular book, I have all the tail ones. I have several other books of his, but I like the fact that he did not want to become a famous writer. He just wanted to make money.
Yeah.
And it's funny because here he is today living in his writing. People will call it morbid because come on, if you read the shit he's wrote, and it's just entertaining, and I like it because he's a different type of writer. It doesn't have to be all like love and like full of flowers, and it's morbid, it's dark, it's interesting, and
Yet one of the most beautiful and one of my favorite love poems is by him, Annabelle Lee.
Annabelle.
Stop it, Edgar Allan Poe.
I love that poem too. Oh my God. But yes.
This is how much of an Edgar Allan Poe geek I am. When I went to Maryland, I went to the last bar where he went before he passed, and I went to his gravesite to pay my respects.
I went to his restaurant here in Jacksonville, Florida, or
Neptune. You mentioned to me.
And there's one in North Carolina too, I believe, that you should go to. But yeah, we love our Edgar Allan Poe darkness,
Hardcore.
Hardcore.
All right. My last book recommendation. I could not end the day. And it was hard. This was a toss-up between Brené, our spirit animal, and one of my newest and truest favorites, Young Pueblo. Please follow him on Instagram. Clarity and Connection. I have both his books, Inward and Clarity and Connection. Clarity and Connection is one of my faves. It's written in a way that's very interesting. It's not written in like book format where it's like one page, flip the page and the sentence continues. It's written in what looks like poetry, but it's not. They're thoughts that are composed. They are, I feel like they're channeled words of wisdom and advice that help you connect better, to be in the other person's shoes for a moment, or maybe find the words to express yourself more clearly, clarity and connection, and connect to those around you. It's a quick read. Literally, it's like, and you're through it because it's little chunks like this on every page. Delicious. Young Pueblo.
Yes, I've gotten to read some of his stuff when you've shared it. I'm like, okay, I like that interesting thought.
Every day on my Instagram, on my Insta story, I'm posting something that this individual wrote because I can't handle how good it is.
Brilliant. And that's the thing. We need to start supporting our now authors or poets or writers, because they need to live now and make that money now too. And their work, and not even that, but their work, if it's that important, we need to start sharing it, with everybody. This is why I support every artist out there, because I will need them to make it now. I need their work, their inspiration to be heard. And, my last one. I love this woman. Her name is Emily Dickinson. And we already know. What I love about her poems is that, first of all, besides being one of the first women to ever written in her name, and she fought so hard to get something published when she kept getting denied. She was in her own way. in her own way, she was also morbid and out there and different and
She legit was
queer,
like the girl version of Edgar Allan Poe.
basically. And she
Between
was
her and
one of the
Virginia Woolf.
right, and she was one of the few who wrote about loving other women. She did. If you look and if you see,
That's
so
love.
I like that. Like, you still, we don't see many queer poems out there or poets or anything, but this is not one of the main things about her, obviously. But her work itself is just different,
Yeah.
and the way that she writes and composes wasn't the same.
And it was in a and it was in a way, right? It's more in your face, which is totally fine. It is the thing of the moment, but it was written in a way that felt inclusive, right? It was for the love, for loving a woman, but those that were reading it didn't know it then, right? So it resonated with them and whatever love they might be feeling, right? So they honored it in a way that was not critical. I
Oh,
don't know if you mentioned.
yes. There is a book that I own that I love. It's a thick ass book though, but it's by Brian Peterson. Family Traveling the World: A Lesson, Life and Travel, written by my friend Brian Peterson, aka me.
What?
It's a worth to read. I love his book. Like, I personally know him, so I'm reading it in his voice, and he talks about all his travels around the world, and he shares his experience and his things. I love the book. I love it. Love it, love it,
Brian?
love it, love it.
Hace book?
Yes. Oh yeah, like this and beautiful.
I love how he, aka me.
I love the book because it's so
Why did I think
entertaining because
no?
he talks about he has an entire family, two kids, a wife and himself, and then with his extended family traveling the world, literally. Should
Whoa.
check it
Well,
out.
I remember the video that Brian made for us for the gratitude episode. Your background was like these gorgeous mountains. Okay, well, there I go. I know exactly what my next book purchase is going to be on Blurb. I dig it.
It's
I dig it.
Yes, send your link over, Brian, please. When I first got my copy, I'm reading it and I'm reading it in his voice, and I know him personally, so I'm like, ha, that is so Brian. So I'm passing. I'm like,
I
that's
think
right.
that's so awesome when you can read things in the writer's voice. Like it's like when you read a text and you're like, you know exactly how they're writing to you. That's
Right,
awesome.
I love it. Yeah, I have so many friends with so many books. I would not be able to sit here and just all day.
Oh, I freaking love it. Bueno, now on the tip that it's Brian, it's time for Cody quotes. Not only does he write books, he wrote this. Bing. Bing. I know that y'all can't see, like all you see is the graphic. You cannot see me like rocking out every time to my little intro. Thank you. There is Brian's link to the blurb where you can find his book. That is awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, and thank you so much for that beautiful musical interlude to Quotey Quotes with Vane. So the first quotey quote, reading for I'm gonna go to banner and take it up. Oh, you did it because you rock. Reading forces you to be quiet in a world that no longer makes place for that. By John Green. There is so much noise in this world. Everybody's so ready to talk gaga and talk period. Reading is quiet time. Silent conversation.
Right
I
here
dig it.
in the brain.
Yeah. The more that you read, the more things you will know. The more that you learn, the more places you'll go. Dr. Seuss. Now, before y'all come at me now, because I talked with Chubby about this before, I'm ready for somebody to say something about Dr. Seuss. Y'all know I don't believe in this cancer culture bullshit. Not about that life. I understand it was not the best thing. Some of the illustrations in Dr. Seuss uh, perpetuated certain stereotypes that are not sensitive to certain ethnicities or races. Here's the thing: it's what they knew. Instead of canceling it, take out the damn picture. Do not cancel an entire book that taught millions how to read, how to imagine, how to create. Dr. Seuss was literally my textbook in acting school. It helps you work diction. It helps those that a lot of speech pathologists use it to teach those with speech impediments how to speak. How ridiculous to cancel something so magical.
I agree.
Rewrote the part about it that no longer applies, but what the written word didn't say anything wrong, man. Come on now, people. Canceling culture. Ridiculous. It upsets me. A reader lives 1,000 lives before he dies. The man who never reads lives only once. George R. Martin. George has a lot of R's in his name.
And that's how I feel. That's how I feel.
Right. It's absolutely true because you're getting to live vicariously through this storytelling, right? You get to imagine yourself. You said you imagine yourself in these histories. Those that are really into fiction imagine themselves in these worlds. These are worlds created by words. All right. Y seguimos. I love this. So Whisper is an app, a website where people
The app,
share their
yeah.
deepest secrets without while remaining anonymous. Just saw a person reading my favorite book. It's like a book recommending a person. How true is that? When you, it's like when you discovered that we were both into Edgar Allan Poe.
Right. Now
I
we
was
have a
like,
new
oh, it's
friend.
meant to be. Meant to be. It's true. I know,
Exactly.
right? How
We
exciting when you
connect.
see somebody. Yeah. It's an open door to start a conversation, to connect with somebody you otherwise probably would have been too shy to approach. You automatically know you have something in common. Or even if they're just looking at it out of curiosity, hey, that is an amazing book. You should totally read it. Oh yeah, what's so great about it? Pa 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 pa.
And there you go.
Hello.
Dialogue.
Delicious. Delicious. And last but certainly not least, a child who reads will be an adult who thinks. Anonymous. Y'all, we've done like a cajillion episodes about this kind of thing. It starts in the home, yes, but it also starts like in like my mother put into me that desire to read. My teacher, Miss Rafa, in fourth grade, pushed it even further. You know, helping children find that love, find like Tubi when you discovered the kinds of book that you like to read, and then you couldn't get enough of it. And look at you now on doing a podcast, been an advocate and activist for X amount of years. It creates people who think, functional parts of society that bring forth innovative thoughts that make our society beat and grow and evolve.
And like you had your mom who was always like there, I didn't have parents who were like reading is essential. Reading, you need to read, you need to educate yourself, you need to. I didn't have that growing up.
Yeah.
I, for some reason, just it I guess to get away from my own living situation and to go to other worlds, I guess that also drove me to read, you
Yeah.
know.
That is an escape for so many. And I would imagine that you share that with your nieces, that you're like,
Trust.
hey.
Let me tell you how when my niece was 7 years old, my oldest niece was 7 years old, I made her read this book, The Book Thief.
Oh
She was
wow.
7 years old, and that was our book time reading night. Let me read your book. Okay, you're gonna read this. She read the book so fluent, so like she knew what the hell she was reading, German words and whatever
Yeah,
was in there. She had no clue. She's like, "What is this, Tia?" And I'm
that's
like,
awesome.
"Should I like explain to her?" But she
Yeah,
read
don't
it.
underestimate kids. Don't underestimate them. Like I was reading Shakespeare at an age that I had no idea what the hell I was saying. But by the time I got to the age where I knew what I was saying and how to say it, um, it took a different meaning. The same way that I read The Little Prince every couple of years, and it takes on a whole new meaning. Man, their minds start processing words they never heard of. Their mouths start shaping where it's important.
And she is ahead of her class. She's like what, in ninth grade, and she reads like 2 years. She could take college classes now. I think she's in 10th. She could take college classes now and be done in 2 years. But I told her, let's read something, because I know she had the ability to. She was always interested in reading, and I'm like, you're gonna read I don't know if this was a college book. I don't know if this is college reading material, but whatever. You're gonna read this level of reading, because I wanted her to. I didn't have that, but I know I could do that for them.
And
You know,
it's a lovely way to connect also, because whatever she may not have understood or was outside of her scope of like knowledge at her age, you could explain, and there's that conversation now. Ah, he's so delicious. So delicious.
yes. That's
Final
why I don't.
thoughts. Oh, sorry.
Well, I was gonna say I don't take reading for granted every minute
Yeah.
or every day. Like we always do. Like we read this little tiny quote on Instagram, but I'm gonna go search further. I'm gonna go deep dive into what this is, what this meant, or if there's a new phrase or a new disease or new something.
Yeah. That's how I discovered Young Pueblo. I saw one of his quotes, one of his posts, which apparently was from his book. I was like, I love quotes. La, la. There's an entire book. And when Carlos gifted it to me, I, it also like when somebody gives you a book and understood to give me the like the tangible version of that book, I was like, I love you so much more right now. So yeah.
Yes. I don't know. There is a surprise at the end of the show, so y'all better stay.
Mm-hmm. We're gonna do final thoughts because I'm so ready for this final part of the show. I have
Um,
been waiting.
my final thoughts to this is, if you're able to help someone, if you don't throw your books away, if you know that somebody else could benefit from it, if you know someone or any, like I said, all the links that I'm going to send, just look for your local library, look anywhere, and just give your books away, donate them, if you're able to. Don't take reading for granted, because one day we're going to freaking forget how to read. I hope not, but
Uh,
I don't know. Just reading is beautiful. I have nothing to say.
hashtag reading is essential.
Yeah.
Final thought from me is it is unfortunate that illiteracy is still something so prevalent in the world. And it does fall to us to help eradicate that particular thing, because so many things that are ailing our world could be resolved with that, because people will be able to stand up for themselves, will be able to understand what's
Exactly.
happening in the world around them and defend themselves, right? As we see by the statistics, women specifically. And again, I say, remember those that are illiterate at the degree of illiteracy that we see in Nigerians and amongst women globally. It is intentional. It has been intentional that they have been kept illiterate. So if we have all these organizations that should be shared, where we are able to either with lending books, or there's a lot of programs that also send people to different countries to teach them how to read and how to speak a different language, that is incredibly important, right? It doesn't have to be just sending money and sending aid. Learning to read and write is sending aid. It is teaching a man to fish, right? So that they can rise above for themselves. So I'm about that. And
Just
share a book. Share a book. It's a beautiful way to start conversation.
Brian, also, didn't you go to Colombia to teach the kids there? He was teaching Spanish, or was it English, to the kids there. So he also has
That's
experience on
awesome.
lending his ability of what he knows too. And I am very grateful to be surrounded with people who care to that extent. because there's some people that live in their bubble. They're like, they don't know how to read, not my problem. And I'm like, yeah, but what if that was your shoes?
Yeah. We are not an island. Yeah, I taught English in Colombia. That's amazing. That's amazing. My friend Elaine traveled all over Asia teaching English as well. In Thailand, in Mali, which is one of the countries that rates as lowest level percentage of literacy. So super important. Thank you, Brian, for doing that. That's awesome. With that
Yes.
said, we started the book sharing with Chubi's book and them reading one of the poems. This is the newest poem that was completed by Chubi Giroux. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Can I make?
This
I'll
poem
do
is
that.
called WAR. The only war I want to go to is the one where we're fighting for hunger, for homelessness. The only war I want to go to is the one where we're fighting for basic human rights, like LGBTQ rights, women's rights, to end human trafficking. For indigenous people to get their land back, stop line 3. Stop the corruption where corporations and all the banks we trust are stabbing us in the back. And standing up for your government gets you killed. And if you live, you're a political prisoner or you disappear. The only war I want to go to is the one where we're ending pedophilia, child marriage. The only war I want to go to is the one where reproductive system is not anyone's business and we have rights to our bodies. The only war I want to go to is the one where we're dismantling patriarchy. Just like when cutting down trees, deforestation, red tides, no fish, low streams, the ice is melting, ocean levels are rising, global warming doesn't exist, you must be going crazy. There's no room to breathe. And talking about getting therapy, your mental health goes unchecked and you get pushed back to the shadows, being unheard and unseen. When a black man gets killed under 10 minutes saying he can't breathe, while the white man is on one knee on the black man's neck because the white man thinks it's correct. Like Shia Diamond sings, they say they don't see color, but the blood stains show the proof. Hands up, please don't shoot. You can try to silence us, but we will rise. You can take our voice, but our art will survive. We stand next to our fear, marching hand in hand, like we always have. The only war I want to go to is the one where all of our siblings of all races are treated as one. Like Nina Simone said, all I want is equality for my sister, my brother, my people, and me, where freedom means free. Like Barry Maguire once sang, I can't twist the truth. It knows no regulation. Handful of senators don't pass legislation, and marches alone can bring legislation. Integration. You can keep your money and your schemes. You can keep your oil. You can't even keep your machines when you're sitting on a throne, stolen land. But the only thing you can't keep is our determination to fight for our lives. The only war I want to go to is the one where we're fighting for peace.
You made me cry.
That's what I've been working on, and all the things. So I just wanted to share that with you.
Again, the importance of reading an adult mind that thinks, that has opinions, whether anyone watching or hearing hereafter agrees with all of it, with part of it, you were able to express it. They were able to hear it and process it and understand it. Because why? Because somebody took the time to try and educate us, and we can't stop there. And we cannot. Please, I invite us all to remember this on the daily. We cannot stop in our backyard. There is an entire world. What happens to one of us happens to all of us.
Sure does. And Shia Diamond is a transgender, Black transgender woman who sings, and she sings amazing songs. I urge you to go look at her music and support, because she talks about real shit.
And you
And we
mentioned
know
Nina Simone is one of my favorite singers and pianists. Nina Simone was denied being able to play classical music. Oh my goodness! In New York at the Met. Mom, correct me because you know what I'm talking about. But she used it to her advantage, and her fight, her protest was her music, and that's how she stood up for her people, and that is absolutely brilliant.
there's so many political songs out there that these artists have sang for many reasons, for help to open other people's minds. And I had to incorporate a couple because my point was not going to go down like that. And I just read, like, I know it's uncomfortable to read me, like, to hear music like that, but it was done at a time where they couldn't sing, or if you sang, you could have got killed. Especially, I am pretty sure Nina Simone's time, it was not
Oh my
heard of.
no, that was in
So
the heat of the civil rights movement that she was speaking, and Billie Holiday when she released "Strange Fruit."
oh yes.
It was like it was in your face, the lyrics. It was very metaphorical. I now hear the problem with the audio about like hanging fruit, but
Yeah,
everybody knew what he was singing about.
I love the song, but I love obviously the meaning. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah. She gave it a voice. She said, "Don't act like we don't know, like we don't see what you're doing." It was her way of paying tribute and bringing acknowledgement to that. Thank you for using your art. You hit everything that's happening in the world. We're always saying about how overwhelming it can be because everything is happening. It feels like it's happening all at once, and
that's
it is. But the longer we go without dealing with shit, it's like tapando el sol con un dedo, covering the sun with your thumb.
yeah,
It don't work, or it only works for so long before it catches up to all of us.
it does. I hope you guys reflect on everything and come up with your own opinions and knowledge to want to continue to, I don't know, just be better, know better, do better, like we
Mhm.
always say.
See you guys. No, my mom's apologizing for not knowing what we were talking about. It's all good, mom. We'll see you guys on Monday. We'll be talking about frontliners.
Yeah,
See you guys.
stay fearless,
Stay
everyone.
fearless.